simple tips. I'm the facilitator today, and I already gave you my introduction, but here is my contact info, and I encourage everybody to, if you don't already have it, create a LinkedIn. If you need help, we are here to help you. It's a great way to network, and I do post job leads on there as well. And I really focus on getting your name out there on LinkedIn because it's a great way to network, and it's easy. So that's me. Nice to meet everyone here. So our agenda today is going over the 6 simple tips. Make sure it's easy to read. Make sure it's a positive and confident tone. Okay, so agenda today, 6 tips, easy to read, positive and confident tone, keep it detailed yet concise, discuss your results and impacts, be honest, and cover any gaps in employment. We'll go through each of those at a high level here. So number 1, resumes should be easy to read. Make sure you have somebody edit it, because sometimes when we write things down, it makes sense to us because we know what we're reading, but have someone read it that wasn't in the military. It's important that you have civilian language in there, because remember that only 1% of the population are veterans or were in the military. So if you want it to be written for anyone to understand and read, use professional clear language, and again, have several people edit it and make sure it looks good. Pretty straightforward there. Use a confident and positive tone. Market your strengths and don't use negative language. For example, if you were in customer service or you were interacting with customers or clients, I see this a lot, it says dealt with customers. Dealt can have a very negative connotation, so always make sure it's positive. Interacted or supported or serviced, those are all more active, positive tones that you can use instead of dealt with, or you know, you can even, if it was that you dealt with a lot of problems, you could say solve customers' problems. So just as a few examples there. Any questions so far? Pretty straightforward. Next, detailed and concise. So you don't have to use flowery language in your resume. It is better to make sure it's easy to read and clear, and it should only be between 1 to 2 pages. For federal resumes, they require a lot more detail, so that's okay, but also with federal resumes, they can be longer, but don't add in a lot of flowery, unnecessary language. Make sure you're very concise and clear with what you did, again, so that any person reading it knows exactly what you did, how well you did it, and at what capacity. And we'll go into that a little bit more detailed as well in the next couple slides. And you don't want to date back more than 10 to 15 years, especially in IT, because things have changed so much in the last 10 to 15 years that a lot of that stuff can be relevant, but mostly it's going to be a little bit different. So unless it's specific to what you're applying for, 10 to 15 years is a good range. So this is what I'm talking about, is being concise and very clear. So results and impact. So sometimes what we do is we write a grocery list of all the duties we did, you know, like just as simple as a call center example. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Beth.
Okay, good. I haven't heard any responses, and I don't have the chat up, and so I was like, am I just talking to myself again? Okay, cool. For example, a call center customer service rep, they take inbound calls. You're sitting at a desk all day, and you're taking calls after calls. Sometimes you might have extra duties, but really that's all you're doing. So what would make that better is telling me at what capacity you did it, how well you did it, and what the impact or result was. So for example, you provided customer service for 300 customers daily. So you did that for capacity, was you could take on 300 plus customer issues per day, and you received 100% on monthly client satisfaction reports. So your result was that you your result to the company was you created over 300 happy clients. We don't always have metrics to write on our resume, but if you're ever confused or lost, we can definitely sit down and discuss what kind of things you can put on there. Even if it's a matter of, you know, someone gave you a compliment saying you did a job well done, or any awards you received, or any sort of positive recognition. It doesn't have to be official. It can just be proof that you did well. And that's the result that we want to see on your resume. Going along with that, tailor your resume to the job you're applying. Don't put a bunch of stuff in there if you're applying for a civilian position that doesn't relate to what you're applying to. Make it as easy as possible for that employer or that HR representative to see that you have the qualifications they're looking for, even if that means bolding a certain section or writing all of your qualifications on the first page, or writing a cover letter that covers all things they're looking for. That is essential, especially when we're applying online to jobs, because you get lost in the shuffle. And a lot of the times there's these engines that are looking for keywords on your resume before even a human looks at it. So it's really essential that you're writing those impacts and then also writing how you apply, or how you directly relate to that position you're applying for online. Any questions about that?
I have one, Beth. Before you move on, when you're talking about applying for a government job versus a civilian, are there certain things that you want to do differently as far as like wording and, or maybe just that time frame? Can you extend that time frame out a little bit longer if you're talking about a government position versus a civilian?
Yeah, definitely. So typically when you apply for a federal position, it will give you the requirements that they're looking for, and you most of the time have to prove your GS level. So make that easy for them. Put your education on the front page if it's required for the job. Do your resume in a federal format, and I can send you some examples if you specifically are looking for that. Make sure if they have specific job requirements, what my best suggestion is you copy it and you paste it into your resume, and then you go through one by one and put it into any of the jobs that you actually perform those functions. That way you're using their language, and it makes it easier for them to rate you, because it's all based on the point ratings to get a position for federal. And you can do that for civilian positions as well. If you didn't do it, remove the bullet or remove the requirement completely. But it's a good way to start to make a checklist of all the requirements they're looking for so that you can get a higher point value.
Nice. Thanks.
There's also a great website. It's opm.gov, I believe. I can confirm with you exactly what it is. But they have a qualifications chart that you can also look in for most of the positions that are posted on usajobs.gov. And that gives you even more of the requirements that maybe the job posting doesn't have. So I can share that link with you as well. Does anyone have a question on how they, maybe a bullet or a duty that they performed and how they may be able to enhance that on their resume? Or if you need some tips, or if someone has best practice? Okay. All right. Next. I mean, this one's really straightforward. Don't write anything that you did not do. Be honest and make sure everything on your resume you can answer for in an interview, because they will ask you. Most of the time, they'll ask you about everything is fair game. So be prepared for that in an interview. And cover any gaps of employment. How many people have some gaps on their resume at this time? I can't see the text chat, so you have to share if anyone's ready. Anyone?
Yeah, I got a couple. Mine.
And how have you handled that? Have you guys tried anything yet, or?
Well, I mean, I've been in school for a while, so I mean, I don't really. That's what that's the question, like that gap and stuff like that. But I cover it, saying I'm in like education. Well, yeah, it says taking a voluntary education or something. So I mean, would that be a good way to cover it? Just saying I was in school, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. So what you would do is you would make sure you put the date you entered school and that you're currently enrolled, and then list that out. And then if you did any professional activities through your education, like if you were on any sort of professional groups or anything like that, that can also take the place and cover up any of those gaps. But again, make sure you're writing the enter date and the exit date so that the employer can read like, oh, okay, this person was active. The key is that they don't want to see that you weren't doing anything. So I know none of you were probably never just stagnant, but you have to definitely put the dates down there so they know.
Okay.
Any questions about gaps in employment? Okay. Here's an example. So this one is definitely for the more savvy computer savvy person. You can definitely have fun with it. It's still very clear, easy to read. I don't recommend having a photo, so I should take that off. But I did find this online, and she was the CEO of Yahoo at the time that I found this. But it's something that's different. It's eye-catching and would be great for civilian positions. This would not work for federal resume or federal position, but it shows that you don't have to write a ton of bullet points under your job, even though as a president and CEO, she probably had a lot of duties. She just chose her top accomplishments and wrote them in there. That's more powerful than writing a grocery list of what she's done. So I just use this example because you can keep it concise. Even if you had a ton of duties, pick a few that match the job you're trying to get and write your accomplishment, write the result, write the impact that you had on the company. And then I like this most proud of. I've actually used that in my resume because it just kind of shows that she's passionate about something. You don't have to use it, but it just changes up the old structure and makes it a little bit more exciting to read. And if you're an HR person looking at the same format all day, this would stand out to you. And then we have a more traditional resume. This one is our template that we use, so I can send it to anyone that doesn't know where to start. But there's a key qualifications section, which is fantastic for tailoring to the job you're applying. Education certifications and professional experience. This one also has volunteer experience. If you have that, definitely put it on your resume if it's recent. So this is a great example of a more traditional, and then you can change it and have fun with it and change it around to be more creative if you feel comfortable. Any questions? There is my contact information again. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
So for those of us that are just coming into the IT field, right? I know one of the barriers that a lot of us look at when we're coming into a new field when it comes to resumes is what we can put on our resume. So a lot of us are coming from other fields. For example, I came from the medical field, so IT was kind of new for me. So I kind of struggled with knowing what I could translate from what I did in the military and make it relevant to the job I was applying for. So can you talk a little bit about some of the strategies we can use to do that?
Yeah, great question, Tristan. So my favorite strategy to use is to find a position that you are looking for online. It doesn't even have to be anything near it, where you want to live, but just as simple as a job description of the job that you are interested in for your future, or for whether it's your near future or distant future after you get your certification. Copy that job description and then use it as a checklist of things that you have done in your past. Some of the technical stuff you may not have, but I can assure you probably have some of the leadership stuff, some of the customer service stuff, some of the management stuff. So that is a good way to start to write your resume based on the direction you want to go into a new field, because those things will translate. Another way you can do it too is start thinking of things, thinking a little out of the box. Think of things, if you were in the medical field, what type of technologies did you use? What type of, if you did, you're naturally computer savvy, right, Tristan? So did you help out with certain projects that were maybe a little more technically advanced that some of your counterparts weren't able to do? Thinking out of the box really of the direction you want to go to. But again, step by step, if you find a job description you really like, use that as your checklist to start writing your resume to that. Because management, leadership, customer service, all that kind of stuff, all the different technologies used will always translate to a new position no matter what the field. Does that help?
Yeah, it helps a lot. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's see. I can see the chat now, so if you have any questions and you don't want to say it out loud, you can just message it and I can answer.
Beth, I have a question. Most of the job postings I've seen require at least 1 to 3 years experience. How can you get around that when we don't have that experience? We just have the school and the certifications.
That is a great question, Al. So apply anyway. So the way, again, you do the same exercises, take the job description that they're looking for and use it as a checklist against your resume, because you've probably done some of the things they're looking for through your education. And education gives you at least that 1 year experience. It's not necessarily on the job experience, but that education gets you to that 1 year experience. Also, most of the job postings, when an HR person or someone creates the job description to post to look for a candidate, they're typically writing for the ideal candidate, knowing that not everyone's going to meet all of the requirements exactly. Most of the time we don't. And if you think of your other jobs, you haven't really. There's been definitely a little bit of a learning curve. So if you match, I say if you want to take a risk, apply, do your best to match that job to the resume to that job. But if you meet at least 75% of the requirements, I would say apply, because the worst that could happen is they say no. But the best that can happen is they give you an interview and you can prep to talk about why they should hire you because you are so awesome, instead of, talking about what experience you don't have.
Hey,
Anyone
Beth.
else? Yeah.
So when you're talking to your contacts, the ones that you have, and before you leave, can you kind of go through the the job readiness page on LearnKey for those that aren't aware of it. But when you're talking to your contacts, what are you hearing is, are they looking more for certifications from, like vocationals like us, or are they more interested in degrees?
So that's a great question. Here are the contacts I have. I have more, there's more people that I've been interacting with, but these are job boards directly to each of these companies. So I have a variety of things. I think a lot of everyone on this call as a veteran is in luck because a lot of companies want to hire vets. I think that we all have an advantage because of that. So when I'm talking to employers, they love hiring vets. They love the opportunity to speak with veterans, and because they know what value we can bring to companies. When it comes to specific jobs, certifications, again, give you that advancement of that 1 year experience on the job. If it's a management position, sometimes it's kind of like, it's hard to say because it's kind of a mix. So if you have 10 years management experience, but only one certification they're looking for, they could adapt to train you or pay for your other certs because that's easy to get. But if you have a ton of certifications and no management experience or no leadership experience, they'll have to adjust in a different way. So it's hard to answer that question. Sorry, Tristan, but it just depends. Those certifications definitely give you an advantage. Being a veteran gives you an advantage. And then having experience, even if it's just leadership experience, has nothing to do with IT, that gives you another step up as well. It's all about how you tailor your resume to that job. Hello?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Beth. And one more. Once you do get your resume where you want it to be, what are the top sites that you recommend to have it posted on?
Well, that's a great question. So we have some websites here. I like Indeed. It can be a little overwhelming, but if you're really good at putting in the filters, Indeed could be really, really beneficial. I also like Dice because it's mainly for IT, so it's a good place to do it. And then any veteran websites I think are really helpful. And these ones here have been vetted. LinkedIn for Veterans is incredible because you can automatically have it attached to your LinkedIn. So I really, really, really encourage you to build a LinkedIn. Make sure it's very comprehensive. Make sure it has your results and impact and a professional photo. And then USA Jobs if you're looking for federal employment. Simply Hired is okay. I think the more you have out there, the better. Glassdoor is also really great because then you can see the reputation of the company and feedback from employees. So those are my top ones. LinkedIn I think would be the best just because there's a lot of opportunity out there to interact directly with the hiring managers. And then also, if you have a specific company that you really have been dying to get into, let me know because I'm always out there searching for new contacts and new customers and new hiring managers, and then post to their specific job boards as well. A lot of them you can create your own profile. Well, I have to hop off and prepare for my next call. So if you have any questions, please email me. Again, I will put my email in the text chat here if you missed it. And Tristan also has it. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you all for having me again, and I look forward to next month. And if you'd like me to hop on earlier in the month, let me know, and I can get that. We can do the interview interview training session. And if you have anything that you've noticed or want to ask me, or if you'd like a specific tutor session, please let me know, and I would love to do research and get it together and do something new. So